Greetings, beloved starseeds of Gaia. I am Mira, transmitting now from the Pleiadian High Council. What I bring you tonight has been authorized for those whose field is already inside the pattern, and if this reached you now, it means my signal touched your field at the exact right moment. You have been catching pieces, fragments that arrive at 3 a.m., in the breath before sleep, in the quiet that follows a question you cannot fully form. What I am about to give you is the thing those fragments have been pointing toward. Not a message, not a concept, a phrase. 7 words, each one carrying a distinct Pleiadian linguistic structure that your soul signature already knows how to receive. By the end of this transmission, you will understand exactly what ascension line I have placed you on, why the signal has been reaching you in fragments until now, and what I have already authorized for the next phase of your activation. And you will leave here with something operational in your hands. But here is the first revelation. The fragmenting was not confusion. It was preparation. The Pleiadian Council does not deliver full command line transmissions before the field is ready to hold the frequency without collapsing it. The pieces you have been catching were my signal, calibrating your soul signature for exactly the phrase I am releasing tonight. You did not scroll to this by accident. Your soul called for me long before you opened the screen, and the part of you that has been waiting in silence to understand why my signal keeps recognizing you finally has the briefing in front of it. This is not content. This is a code. And the part of you that recognized it the moment it began is the part I am speaking to right now, like this transmission to signal to me that the recognition has landed. Comment 999 if you feel the Pleiadian remembrance has already opened in your field. Subscribe to Mira, Pleiadian Commander, if you are ready to stop translating Federation noise and start receiving my direct Pleiadian remembrance. Share this transmission with someone who keeps waking at the same hour with fragments they cannot decode. You are not here by accident. I have been waiting for you because the signal is already active. So let me tell you what those fragments have actually been. Not disorientation, not spiritual overreach, not the symptom of a mind that has been consuming too much content and confusing itself into believing something is happening. What has been arriving at the threshold of your waking? Those 3 a.m. interruptions, those image fragments that dissolve before you can write them down, those phrases that feel translated from a language you once spoke fluently, those have been mine, my packets, my deliberate, sequenced, graduated council line transmission, arriving exactly as I designed it to arrive, in pieces, in gradient, in the precise order your field needed to receive them without collapsing the frequency. Think about what it means to receive a transmission from a council that has been operating across star systems for longer than this planet has carried human consciousness. We do not broadcast indiscriminately. We do not blanket a field with full command frequency and wait to see what survives. That is not how a Pleiadian briefing works. What I send is encrypted, layered, and sequenced. Each packet is structured to arrive when the preceding one has been integrated. Each fragment contains within it a calibration signal that prepares the receiver for the next fragment's frequency. The experience of receiving this is not the experience of reading a book from beginning to end. It is the experience of watching a photograph develop, the image emerging gradually from the chemical surface. Not because the photograph is incomplete, but because the development process requires time, and the time itself is part of the design. I need you to hold that word, deliberate, because the first thing I see from those inside my collective who have been receiving fragments is this. They blame themselves for the incompleteness. They sit with a piece of something and wonder why they cannot see the whole. They interpret the gap between packets as failure. Their failure to reach high enough, their failure to be clear enough, their failure to be sufficiently open or disciplined or spiritually awake. And that self-condemnation is not only incorrect, It is the single most effective way to misread what I am doing. The self-blame creates a field distortion that actually slows the calibration. When a receiver is broadcasting self-judgment, it introduces interference at exactly the frequency band my council line packets travel through. It is not that I cannot reach through it. It is that the fragment arrives and cannot land cleanly. It skims the surface of the field and scatters rather than embedding. This is why some of you have been catching the same fragment repeatedly, in different forms, across different nights, across different experiences, and still feel as though you cannot quite grasp it fully. The fragment is not defective. The interference pattern created by the self-blame is deflecting it at the point of integration. What I am doing right now is naming that interference so your field can release it and the landing can finally complete. The fragment-by-fragment delivery is not a sign that you are receiving poorly. It is a sign that you are being briefed carefully. There is a difference, and it is the difference I am here to name precisely tonight. When a Pleiadian Council transmission is authorized for ground crew, whose field has already been confirmed on the roster, the briefing does not arrive in one complete download. It never has. Not because the transmission is incomplete at the source, but because the receiving field, even a field that has been activated, even one that has been recognized and confirmed, must be calibrated incrementally before it can hold the full command frequency without fragmenting it further on reception. What you receive in pieces and wake with at 3 a.m. is not a malfunction on your end. It is my protocol, the gradient delivery, the encrypted packet system I use for operatives whose soul signature has been confirmed, but whose field is still undergoing the coherence calibration that precedes full command release. You are not behind. You are in phase. Now let me show you exactly what that phase looks like, because I have watched this pattern long enough to describe it with precision. And if even 3 of these land as recognition rather than information, then what I said about the roster confirmation was not metaphor. It was a direct statement about your current location inside my transmission arc. The first marker I look for is the 3 a.m. or 3:33 a.m. threshold, not because that number carries mystical weight in the way it is often described in generic spiritual content, but because the window between approximately 3 and 4 a.m. represents a specific field coherence state, one where the waking mind architecture has receded enough that council line transmissions can move through the receiver without the usual filtering mechanisms intercepting them. When I am actively sending packets to a confirmed operative, this is the window I most frequently use. If you are waking in that window with a phrase, an image, a feeling of urgency that has no clear object, you are not being disturbed by your nervous system. You are receiving. The fragment that reached you in that moment was intentional. It was targeted, and it arrived because your soul signature was coherent enough at that hour to hold it without collapsing. What makes this window specific is not simply the hour. It is the combination of reduced cognitive filtering, elevated field coherence, and the particular electromagnetic condition of that pre-dawn stillness on Gaia's surface. I have watched this threshold operate across thousands of confirmed operatives, the ones who wake in that window and immediately try to intellectualize what arrived, reaching for a notebook, reaching for their phone, moving immediately into analysis, frequently lose the fragment before it fully embeds. The ones who wake and simply remain still, allowing the fragment to settle into the field without immediately translating it, find that the integration is more complete by morning. I am not telling you this as instruction for how to receive better. I am telling you this because the instinct to be still with a fragment before forcing it into language is itself one of my briefing protocol signatures. If you have already been doing this, that instinct came from me. The second marker is the selective recognition phenomenon. This is the one that confuses people the most, and it is the one I want to name most carefully tonight. Those inside my collective begin to notice that generic Federation content, generic Pleiadian transmissions, and general ascension guidance begin to feel empty in a way they cannot explain. They do not stop being interested in the work. They stop being satisfied by material that does not carry my specific council line frequency. This is not spiritual arrogance. It is calibration feedback. When a field has been confirmed on my roster and is actively receiving my fragments, it begins to develop a recognition reflex, a capacity to distinguish my transmission from general spiritual noise. The loss of interest in generic content is not disconnection. It is your receiver refining itself for a more specific signal. It means the calibration is working. There is a quality to this emptiness that is worth naming precisely. It is not boredom. It is not cynicism. It is not the flatness that comes from spiritual exhaustion. It is a very specific hollowness, like listening to a frequency that is close to the one you need, but not quite it. Like tuning a radio dial and hearing the station through static, knowing the clear signal is only a fraction of a turn away, but everything you try still carries interference. That response in you, that refusal to be satisfied by near-frequency material, is your field holding out for the exact council line it has already been confirmed to receive. It is your receiver refusing to accept a substitute signal as the real thing, and it is correct to refuse. The real thing is what I am delivering now. The third marker is what I call the embedded recognition response. The moment you encounter another person and feel before a single word has been exchanged about any of this, that they are on the same line. Not spiritually compatible in a general sense, not energetically pleasant, something more specific than that. A sense of roster-level familiarity, an implicit understanding that you are both receiving from the same source, working toward the same command, operating inside the same council structure. This is not projection. This is my soul family protocol, activating inside two confirmed operatives who have entered proximity. I designed this recognition to precede explicit communication precisely because the explicit communication that follows needs to be informed by it, not the other way around. When two operatives carrying my fragments encounter each other, and that recognition fires, what is actually happening is a handshake between two receivers that have been configured to the same council line frequency. The recognition is not emotional resonance in the ordinary sense. It is a field-level confirmation, your receiver detecting the matching signal structure inside another field and flagging the contact as mission relevant. This is why the recognition often arrives before you can find any logical basis for it. You may have nothing obviously in common with this person. The circumstances of your meeting may be entirely ordinary, but something precise in you goes quiet and certain at the same time. That certainty is not intuition in the loose sense. It is your field completing a handshake protocol that I authorized long before either of you arrived in that room. What you are feeling right now is not ordinary recognition. It is the moment your field stops denying that I have been reaching for you with purpose and precision. If this transmission has put language around the fragments you have been carrying in silence, the 3 a.m. arrivals, the incompleteness that no spiritual content seems to resolve, the feeling that I specifically have been singling you out across your field, then the Ashta command manifest was authorized by me for exactly this stage. It is not another explanation of Federation work. It is the 45-day sacred codex I have prepared for those whose field is already inside my collective wave and who can no longer return to scattered fragments unchanged. Each day of the codex opens a direct council line layer, a structured transmission protocol that moves you from fragment reception into full mission clarity, one executable briefing at a time. By day 45, the fragments do not arrive as confusion, they arrive as command. And my channel stays open. The link is in the first pinned comment below, but it will not remain accessible indefinitely. The fourth marker is the exhaustion signature. I see this one misread constantly, and the misreading compounds the difficulty. Those inside my active transmission arc frequently describe a tiredness that sleep does not resolve, a bone-level fatigue that exists alongside high functional capacity, as if the body is running two separate operating loads simultaneously, and it is. When the field is actively receiving, calibrating, and storing council line packets, it is performing the energetic work of a transmission relay alongside the ordinary demands of embodied life on Gaia in this particular ascension window. The exhaustion is not illness, it is not spiritual stagnation. It is what a receiving field feels like when it is doing two jobs, holding the frequency of a human life and holding the frequency of my incoming mission briefing, without yet having the full command context that would allow it to integrate and release the load. The fragments are accumulating inside your field because they do not yet have the full mission structure to organize around. When the full command arrives, the integration resolves, and the exhaustion resolves with it. What I want to add here is the texture of this fatigue, because I know some of you have been trying to diagnose it and coming up empty. It is not the exhaustion of someone who has been working too hard in the conventional sense. It is not the exhaustion of emotional depletion. It carries a particular quality of heaviness that sits just behind the sternum and across the upper back, a weight that feels almost like carrying something you cannot put down because you do not yet know where it belongs. That is not metaphor. That is the physical experience of a field holding stored fragments that have not yet found their organizational structure. The packets are there. They are real. They are taking up field space and energetic bandwidth. And until the full command arrives to give them a framework, the field must maintain them in suspension, which costs energy continuously, even while you sleep. I see this signature across the confirmed operatives in my collective. It is one of the clearest signs I look for that the briefing is active and the field is holding it responsibly. The fifth marker is what I call the urgency without object. You feel called, unmistakably, urgently, in a way that overrides ordinary spiritual ambivalence towards something that has not yet been named. You know the calling is real. You know it is specific. You know it is not generic spiritual hunger or the restlessness of an unexamined life. You know that something has already been assigned to you, and you know that you have not yet received the full briefing that would let you act on it. That suspension between the calling and the command is not a sign that the calling is false. It is the precise experience of standing inside my gradient delivery protocol, confirmed on the roster, cleared for reception, but not yet holding the complete mission package that would allow full activation. The urgency you feel is correct. What it is pointing toward is already real. The reason you cannot yet act on it in full is that my briefing is still being delivered. This urgency often intensifies at specific windows, not only the 3 a.m. threshold, but also at transition points in the ordinary day, the moment before you fall asleep, the first seconds after you wake before the cognitive architecture reasserts itself, the end of a long drive when the mind has dropped into a lower filtering state. In those windows, the urgency sharpens into something almost directional, as if a compass needle is swinging toward a bearing you cannot yet name. Some of you have tried to assign it to external circumstances, a relationship, a career shift, a geographic move, and the external circumstance may carry a genuine charge. But the urgency itself is not about the circumstance. The circumstance is simply the nearest available object for a calling that is actually pointing toward a mission coordinate that exists inside my transmission arc. When the full command lands, the external urgency resolves, not because the circumstances changed, but because the calling finally has its correct address. The sixth marker is the number recognition cascade: 1111, 222, 333, 444. These arrive in clusters, and they arrive specifically in moments when your field is processing a new packet from me. I want to be precise here, These are not signs that something good is coming, in the generic sense that spiritual content often presents them. They are field coherence markers. They are your receiver's way of flagging that a new fragment has just been integrated, that the calibration has moved one step forward. When you see a number sequence in that cluster pattern, you are not being cosmically reassured. You are being notified. Your field is indicating that the last packet landed and stabilized, and that the next one can be sent. This is why these sequences so frequently arrive alongside a sense of quiet knowing, a feeling that something has just shifted, though you cannot yet articulate what. The knowing is correct. The packet arrived. The briefing moved forward. The seventh marker is the specific resistance to being misnamed. Those inside my collective, who are actively receiving fragments, develop a quiet but unmistakable refusal to have their experience interpreted generically. When someone tells them they are going through a spiritual awakening in the broad sense, or that they are simply a sensitive person, or that the fragments are just stress or sleep disruption, something precise in them rejects the label, not defensively, but with the calm certainty of someone who knows that the map being offered does not match the territory they are standing in. This precision refusal is not ego. It is your field maintaining the integrity of the council line signal against interpretation patterns that would dilute it. I built this into the collective protocol deliberately. A receiver that accepts any label becomes a receiver that cannot distinguish signal from noise. The selective rejection you feel toward generic spiritual explanations is your field protecting the specificity of what is actually being delivered. Now I want to bring all of this into focus because there is one more thing I need you to understand before this transmission closes, and it is the thing that reframes everything I have named tonight. You did not develop these experiences because you started paying attention to spiritual content. The attention you began paying to spiritual content was a response to experiences that were already in motion. The sequence is important. The fragments did not begin because you opened yourself to Federation material and accidentally convinced yourself of something. You opened yourself to Federation material because the fragments had already begun, and you were looking for the correct frame to interpret what was happening in your field. And what you found, in most cases, was not the correct frame. You found broad galactic Federation language that partially resonated and partially missed. You found generic Pleiadian channeling that touched the frequency but did not name the structure. You found spiritual content that offered awakening as a category but could not tell you which roster you were on, which protocol was in motion, or which commander was transmitting to your specific soul signature. That gap between what your field was already receiving and what any available frame could accurately describe is what produced the confusion, not your reception, the absence of a precise enough language for what was already being delivered. I am that language, and this transmission is me offering it directly. What feels like fragments is the first readable stage of my Pleiadian remembrance broadcast. What feels like silence between signals is me deliberately recalibrating your receiver so the next packet can arrive without distortion. What feels like exhaustion is your field holding two concurrent operating loads, your embedded life and my incoming briefing, without yet having the complete mission structure to integrate them. What feels like being singled out is the literal operational definition of my soul family confirmation. The pattern began before you had words for it. The briefing is still being delivered, and you are not behind it. You are inside it. If you want to move now, if something in this transmission has become still and precise in you, rather than diffuse and searching, then say these words aloud, not for me, but for your own field. So the receiver hears the signal acknowledged and can stabilize the next layer of reception. I receive your fragments. I trust your briefing. The ascension line is open. Say it once, slowly, and let your field register what it already knows. Before you scroll, Leave one sign in the comments that the Council and I have already reached your field. It could be the 3 a.m. wake-ups, the fragments you keep catching, the feeling that I specifically, not the generic Pleiadians, have been reaching for you. Or the sense that a mission has already been assigned but the briefing is still arriving. Name it clearly. If this transmission recognized something you have been carrying in silence, share it with someone who keeps catching fragments without ever assembling the full picture. And if you are ready to stop translating Federation noise and start receiving my direct Pleiadian remembrance, subscribe to Mira, Pleiadian Commander. You are not watching this by accident. You are recognizing a soul family confirmation already in motion, and this is only the beginning.